That $12 savings on synthetic blend oil can be one of the most expensive discounts you ever take. Not because synthetic blend oil instantly destroys every engine it touches. That would be ridiculous. Engines are tougher than that. But because modern engines are not the same engines your dad was changing oil on in the driveway 20 years ago. Today, you've got tiny turbochargers spinning at insane speeds. Direct injection systems that can dump fuel dilution into the oil. Stop-start systems. Smaller oil capacities, higher heat. Longer recommended service intervals. Sounds reasonable, right? That's the trick. Synthetic blend sounds like you're getting most of the benefit of synthetic oil without paying full price. It sounds smart, balanced, practical. But the mechanics who actually tear these engines apart know something the average driver doesn't. The label on the bottle can make a blend sound a lot stronger than it really is. And by the end of this, you'll know exactly when synthetic blend is fine, when it's a bad idea, and why that tiny savings can quietly work against the engine you're trying to protect. Synthetic blend oil didn't appear because it was the ultimate answer to modern engine protection. It appeared because there was a gap in the market. On one side, you had conventional oil. Cheap, familiar, and perfectly acceptable for a lot of older engines when changed often. On the other side, you had full synthetic oil. Better resistance to heat, better cold start flow, better stability, and usually better performance under longer drain intervals. But full synthetic cost more. So oil companies created a middle option, synthetic blend. And look, the concept itself is not evil. A blend can be useful. It takes conventional base oil and mixes it with synthetic base oil to improve performance. In theory, you get better protection than conventional oil for less money than full synthetic. That sounds fair. The problem is, what happens when marketing gets involved? Because synthetic blend does not automatically mean half synthetic. It does not mean 70% synthetic. In many cases, the label does not clearly tell you the exact ratio at all. You just know it contains some synthetic base oil mixed with conventional oil. Some. That one word matters. Imagine ordering a real fruit smoothie and then finding out it's mostly sugar water with a spoonful of strawberry puree. Technically, it has real fruit, but is that what you thought you were paying for? That's the issue. Drivers hear synthetic blend and think close enough to full synthetic. But mechanically, chemically, and financially, close enough might not be close enough anymore. Here's where it gets serious. Older engines gave oil a little more breathing room. Many had larger displacement, lower specific output, looser operating demands, and simpler fuel systems. You still had to maintain them, of course, but the oil wasn't always being punished every minute. Modern engines are different. Take a small turbocharged 4-cylinder, like the 1.5-liter engines you see in compact SUVs and sedans, or the 2.0-liter turbo. Engines used across everything from family crossovers to sporty sedans. These engines are making power that older V6 engines used to make, but with less oil, more heat, and more pressure. The turbocharger alone changes the game. A turbo spins incredibly fast and gets extremely hot. The oil doesn't just lubricate the engine bearings, it also has to protect and cool components exposed to serious heat. When oil breaks down from heat, it can leave deposits. Those deposits can clog tiny passages, bake onto surfaces, and reduce oil flow where you need it most. Then add direct injection. Direct injection is great for power and efficiency, but it can contribute to fuel dilution, especially with lots of short trips. Fuel gets into the oil, thins it out, and reduces its ability to protect moving parts. If the oil already has weaker resistance to breakdown, that problem gets worse. Then, add stop-start systems. Every time the engine shuts off and restarts in traffic, the oil film has to protect parts during another startup event. That doesn't mean stop-start is automatically bad. It means oil quality matters more. So when someone says, oil is oil, just change it, they're talking like it's still 1998. It's not. A modern engine can ask a lot from 5 quarts of oil. And if you're using an oil mainly because it saved you $12, you better know exactly what you're giving up. This is the part most people never think about at the parts store. The front of the bottle is marketing. The back of the bottle is where the truth starts. On the front, you'll see big words: synthetic blend, high, mileage, advanced protection, turbo approved, wear defense, clean engine technology. It all sounds impressive, but smart mechanics are looking for something more specific. They're checking the viscosity first. Does the engine call for 0W20, 5W30, 0W16, 5W20? That matters. You do not guess. Then they're checking the required standards: API-SP, ILSAC GF6, Dexos approvals for certain GM vehicles, manufacturer-specific requirements for some European vehicles. Ford, Toyota, Honda, Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and others may have specific oil requirements depending on the engine. The bottle can say synthetic blend and still meet a basic standard. But meeting the minimum standard is not always the same as being the best choice for your driving conditions. And there's another layer. Some owner's manuals clearly require full synthetic. Some strongly imply it through the required specification. Some allow synthetic blend if it meets the standard. But allowed and ideal are not the same word. That's where people get caught. Sometimes the answer is yes. That is a very different question. Because if you drive mostly highway miles, your engine gets fully warm, and you change oil early, synthetic blend may survive just fine in an engine that allows it. But if you drive short trips, sit in traffic, tow, idle a lot, live in extreme heat, have a turbocharged engine, or follow long oil change intervals, that blend has a much harder job. And at that point, the $12 savings starts looking pretty weak. Let's talk money, because this is where the scam feeling comes from. Say synthetic blend saves you $12 per oil change. That sounds good. Now spread that across 5,000 miles. You saved less than a quarter of a penny per mile. Less than that, actually. Now compare that with what modern engine repairs cost. A turbocharger replacement can run well over $1,000. Timing chain issues can get ugly fast. Variable valve timing components are sensitive to dirty or degraded oil. Oil control rings can stick when deposits build up. Sludge cleanup is not cheap. And if an engine starts burning oil early, that problem can follow you for the rest of the vehicle's life. Now, to be fair, one oil change with synthetic blend is not going to magically ruin your engine. That's not how this works. The damage comes from patterns, using the cheapest acceptable oil, stretching intervals, ignoring severe service driving, trusting the dashboard oil life monitor without considering how you actually drive, letting good enough become the maintenance strategy. That's how engines age badly. It's not one dramatic moment. It's thousands of heat cycles, cold starts, fuel dilution events, and microscopic wear particles moving through the system. Sometimes they are, but sometimes the engine was never maintained for the life people expected from it. Here's something you'll notice if you talk to experienced mechanics. Many of them don't like middle ground maintenance products. Not because every middle ground product is bad, because middle ground products are where drivers get overconfident. Conventional oil, everyone knows it's basic. They usually change it sooner. Full synthetic, people understand it's the better product, and it usually fits modern engine requirements. Synthetic blend? That's where things get fuzzy. A driver hears synthetic and thinks they're covered. They may go longer between oil changes than they should. They may use it in a turbo engine that really deserves full synthetic. They may think all blends are basically the same. And that fuzzy thinking is the danger. A smart mechanic wants clear decisions. If the engine is old, simple, naturally aspirated, and the manual allows conventional or blend oil, fine. Use a quality oil and change it on time. If the engine is modern, turbocharged, direct injected, has tight tolerances, or calls for full synthetic, then don't play games over $12. That's the difference. It's not oil snobbery, it's risk management. Oil does more than reduce friction. It carries heat, it suspends contaminants, it protects seals. It helps hydraulic systems inside the engine work correctly. Modern engines use oil pressure to control things like variable valve timing. Some engines rely on tiny oil passages and solenoids to adjust cam timing. If oil thickens, oxidizes, or leaves deposits, those systems can start acting up. You might not get an engine failure immediately. You might get a check engine light. Rough idle. Rattle on startup. Sluggish acceleration. Poor fuel economy. A timing code. A variable valve timing code. A turbo that starts making noise. And then, suddenly, the money you saved on oil feels embarrassing. Heat accelerates oxidation. Oxidation makes oil degrade. Degraded oil leaves varnish and sludge. That sludge restricts flow. Restricted flow creates more heat and wear. It's a nasty little loop. Full synthetic oil generally handles heat and oxidation better than conventional oil. Synthetic blend is somewhere in the middle, but that middle can be wide. A good blend may perform decently. A weak blend may not give you the margin you think you bought. And margin matters. You don't buy better oil because every drive is extreme. You buy it because some drives are. The day you're stuck in traffic in July with the air conditioning blasting, after a week of short trips, in a turbocharged crossover, carrying the family and luggage, that's when oil quality matters. Not when everything is easy. Here's where many drivers make the biggest mistake. They choose synthetic blend because it's cheaper, then run it like full synthetic. That's the worst of both worlds. If you're going to use synthetic blend in an engine that allows it, you need to be honest about the interval. You probably should not automatically assume it can handle the same long interval you'd use with a high-quality full synthetic. And you definitely shouldn't treat every mile the same. 5,000 miles of relaxed highway driving is not the same as 5,000 miles of cold starts, short trips, stop-and-go traffic, idling, towing, mountain driving, or extreme heat. The manual often has a severe service schedule for a reason. And listen carefully to this part. A lot of normal driving is severe service. Short commutes, severe. Stop-and-go traffic, severe. Frequent idling, severe. Dusty conditions, severe. Extreme temperatures, severe. Towing, definitely severe. So when someone says, the manual says I can go 10,000 miles, ask what conditions that assumes. Because if your oil never gets hot enough long enough to burn off moisture and fuel contamination, that interval can be too optimistic. This is why many mechanics would rather see a customer use full synthetic and change it at a reasonable interval than use a blend and stretch it because the bottle sounded premium. Now, let's be honest, because this matters. Synthetic blend oil is not automatically garbage. There are plenty of engines where it can do the job, if it meets the required specification and gets changed on time. An older, naturally aspirated pickup that calls for 5W30 and sees normal use. A quality synthetic blend may be perfectly acceptable. A basic commuter car with conservative oil change intervals and no turbo? It may be fine. A high mileage vehicle that burns or leaks some oil, where the owner is topping off frequently and changing oil often. A blend can make financial sense in certain cases. Fleet vehicles have used blends successfully when maintenance schedules are strict and oil analysis supports the interval. That's the key. Controlled conditions. Synthetic blend becomes a problem when people use it as a shortcut, when they assume it's almost full synthetic, when they ignore engine requirements, when they chase the cheapest oil change and then expect 200,000 miles of trouble-free service. The honest answer is this. Synthetic blend can be acceptable in the right engine, under the right conditions, with the right interval. But for many modern engines, full synthetic is the safer and smarter default. That's the difference between fear-based advice and real mechanical advice. So what should you do when you're standing in front of the oil shelf or talking to the service writer? First, check the owner's manual. Not a forum, not your neighbor. Not the guy who says he's been doing it this way since 1987. The manual. Look for the exact viscosity and specification. If your engine requires 0W-ton 20 full synthetic, use that. If it requires a manufacturer approval, look for that approval on the bottle. Do not assume. Second, consider your engine design. Turbocharged, direct injected. Small displacement making high horsepower. Timing chain. Variable valve timing. Known oil consumption issues? Those are all reasons to lean toward full synthetic. Third, consider your driving. Short trips, traffic, heat, towing, idling, mountain roads, delivery driving, rideshare work, dusty roads, Those all make oil work harder. Fourth, choose the interval based on reality. For many drivers, 5,000 miles with full synthetic is a strong, conservative habit. Some engines and oils can go longer, especially with mostly highway driving, but don't copy someone else's interval without understanding their conditions. Fifth, keep records. Receipts matter. Oil type matters. Mileage matters. If there's ever a warranty concern or resale discussion, records help. And even outside warranty, records tell a story of how the vehicle was treated. The reason smart mechanics refuse synthetic blend in many modern engines is not because they hate saving money. Mechanics love saving money. Good mechanics are some of the most practical people you'll ever meet. They refuse it because the savings are too small compared with the risk. If full synthetic costs $12 more, and you change oil twice a year, that's $24 a year. That's less than one cheap lunch a month, less than a tank of gas, less than one diagnostic fee if a variable valve timing code shows up. And for that small difference, you usually get better heat resistance, better cold flow, better stability, and more margin when real life gets hard on the engine. That's why the blend option can feel like a scam, not because the oil can't lubricate. Because the value proposition is weak. You're paying close enough to full synthetic prices, but you may not be getting full synthetic performance. And if your engine is modern enough to punish oil, that's not a bargain. That's a gamble. That question will save you more money than any discount on the counter. The bottom line is simple. Synthetic blend has its place, but modern engines have raised the standard. If your vehicle is turbocharged, direct injected, driven in severe conditions, or designed around full synthetic oil, saving $12 is not worth reducing your margin of protection. If you want more Straight Talk maintenance breakdowns like this, subscribe and stick around. I'll keep digging into the small decisions at the repair counter that can quietly cost drivers thousands later. And drop a comment with your vehicle, mileage, and what oil you're using right now. I want to see how many people are being sold synthetic blend when full synthetic would make more sense.